I'm Alice Sturm, Garden Program Manager at Nature Forward. Today we're refurbishing an old plant bed. There's just a couple shrubs and then a whole bunch of annual weeds and volunteers. Nothing I'm too worried about. You can see that I haven't done a perfect job of weeding, but it's good enough. I've also top dressed with a little bit of compost. That's going to act as our mulch, and it's much easier to put it down before the plants are in there. Then you don't have to worry about burying your little plants. So we're going to start with just talking about basic plant layout. If you have a plan, you want to start by orienting the plan in space. Pick one of the species and lay that one out first. For example, here I'd say, okay, 3 butterfly weed in the back, and then go from there. Today we actually don't have a plan. What we have is a plant palette. That is, we've selected a handful of species that we think would go good in this bed, and now we're going to decide how to lay them out. To start with, I have some lance leaf coreopsis. I looked this guy up in advance. This one is going to get taller, so I want to put it in the back near the sign. In general, I'm planting things about 8 inches to 12 inches apart, because I want them to close canopy and suppress weeds on their own within one growing season. And I'm going to plant the taller stuff at the back. I usually plant a single species in groups of 3 to 5 and then intersperse them. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to start with 2 coreopsis over here. And I'm just kind of throwing them down roughly a foot apart. And then 3 asters in the middle. Again, this doesn't have to be fancy. We're just planting every species in groups of at least 2 or 3 and alternating. I'll put my last one in here. This one can have the sign. Now in the middle part of the bed, I'm going to have my white turtle head and some showy goldenrod. Basically, those are my middle height plants. They're also pretty shade tolerant, so I'm not worried about them getting shaded by the tall plants behind them. Now this one you'll see is looking a little rough, and I'm not worried about it, and I'll tell you why. It's the fall. Living in a tray, being carried around, being planted is all stressful for a plant, so sometimes that'll push your plants into early dormancy. So this I'll get planted, and it'll be ready to hit the ground running in the spring. Now, if I were planting in the spring and a plant looked like this, I'd be a little more worried. I would still plant it, but I'd be coming back to water it frequently and give it some extra TLC. Now in the front of the bed, it's nice to have something short, but it's also nice to have something that will spread itself pretty aggressively so that it can bounce back if it gets accidentally mowed by the lawnmower. This is especially important when you have a bed like this one that's coming up on some lawn. We are using Blue Jacket here. So now that they're all laid out, it's time to plant. Don't lay out any more than you think you can plant in one session of gardening, because they will get dried out. And the best thing about this is, if you messed up and over observing your garden over the next year, you decide you want to move things around, then move them around next fall.